many men it's a problem that the woman earns more. At some point, she was earning 3 times more than me. And so I accepted the fact that, she will earn more than I do. Because I'm not those pastors who say, seven, I hear seven, the number 7, 7, 7, 7, send me 7 and then what. I don't do that kind of nonsense. I mean, in fact, as far as I'm concerned, those are tricks. But as far as I'm concerned, I say God will meet us. He'll meet us. And so what we kind of agreed on was that because she was the one who had the steady income and the bigger resource, that we do the big resource things, that she'd handle the big resource things. And I'd handle the less resource things, things like groceries and so on. And after a while, we got into a rhythm. And thankfully, we didn't have, I don't know that for me, it was that big a fight. Certainly, it was uncomfortable for her. It was uncomfortable for her. And, when you're building a church, you're pioneering an entire music industry, that's tough. I can't say that that's going to be easy. And I think that we need to understand that, what is it, Jimmy Gates says, kuteseka ni kwa muda. It's not, you're not always going to, it's not permanent. And then a funny thing happens that it's not that she always had more income than I did. There's a time she didn't have a job, and I was the main income earner.
So the tables turn.
And so then I have to be the one. And then because she doesn't have, she has no money. And so then I have to then say, how much will she need to buy her things? Because she's used to some kind of independence. And that was...
I won't ask.
Yeah.
And then I'm being independent.
And then she wouldn't ask. She wouldn't ask and say, I need deodorant, I need feminine products, and give me money, and she doesn't want to ask. And so if you don't tell me you have me, I'm okay, man. Let's just move on.
Can you imagine? I mean, we grew up in a situation, and he talked about me going to Kenya High. And I think it wasn't an open message out there, but we were always taught to be independent. And that's how we became. And so I've had to teach myself to ask for help. I don't know everything. I'm not custodian over all the money in the world. And if I need your help, then I'll ask for your help. Yes, so it won't change you. It won't change who you are.
One of the places that she worked at, she'd work really late. I mean, it was hard. I mean, she'd work 10, 12 hours, 10, 12-hour days, and sometimes even 14-hour days. And she'd come home and we wouldn't, no talking, she'd just fall asleep in her clothes. And I think that really took the energy out of our marriage. And after talking to her, seeking counsel, I said to her, I think that this job is not the one.
Meanwhile, as far as I was concerned, it was providing for us. What do you mean it's not the one?
Right. Both of us shared the same interest. She was working to keep the kids, make sure that this happens, and meanwhile I was saying we need to preserve the relationship. But we're looking at the same thing from different sides.
Yeah. I remember for a while we didn't talk about it. It was a no-go subject. We didn't talk about my job. We didn't say the first letter of the name of that company. We just didn't talk about that job, and that's not healthy. It seems like for the first time in our life, you see where we were talking about open and honest.
We couldn't talk about something.
We couldn't be entirely. So whatever I go through at work, that's my business. Keep it to myself.
That to me forced us to change my perspective. It didn't change immediately, but then it wasn't so unpalatable. We could both see that we care, but we're showing our care in completely different ways.
Right. I think the other thing that came out of this whole thing for me is the recognition that roles can reverse. Traditionally, men are required to do A, B, C, D, E, and the women be in the kitchen, make the breakfast, wash the
Mm.
kids,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. As a corporate woman,
I watched the kids.
I'm now doing 14-hour
Days.
days. Um, but daddy is now engaged with the children in a way that I'm not able to be right now. So I think over time I learned to recognize that there's aspects of he's contributing greatly to our relationship and our marriage, even though this money question is not yet resolved.
Mm.
You know, even now I hear from people saying, "Wow, your girls have such a relationship with their dad. It's admirable. I mean, people envy it."
That's
And I
not something money can buy.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's something money
Yeah. I
cannot
think the
buy.
trade-off was worth it, if you think
Yes.
about it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of families that just don't have that, unfortunately.
And because we're Africans, there's a thing that there's an African thing we expect that the African man is going to be like this. I change the diapers, wash the girls, took
Yeah.
them, do their hair, what have you,
Yeah.
and it was unusual. I remember going to conferences where I'd be the singer or the preacher, and I'm going with my girls while my wife was at work. And I know at the back of some people's minds, Connie, where's his wife? I, this is,
Yeah.
But I said, well, look, if these were boys, they'd say, okay, hey, this is a good dad. But now that my girls are now teenagers, I can see that the investment was worth
Yeah.
it. It was worth that. I wouldn't change. I wouldn't trade that thing. I wouldn't, because if I worked in the corporate world, I would have been absent, to give them the kind of
Yeah.
quality of life that they needed. And then having that kind of a relationship, now I'm finding that it's easier for us to talk when I know that I meet with some of their friends who say, "Who's that?" And he says, "That's my dad." I say, "No, that's not. That's your brother. Your dad is so cool."
Yeah.
Because we have a cool relationship. At the
Yeah.
same time, I think learning about um, disciplining the kids was important for us so that we understood this is the kind of discipline regimen that we want our kids to go through. We need our kids disciplined like this so that we were agreed on that. And understanding for them that they knew that even though they loved their dad had rules, and this
Yeah.
they could only push him this far. And I think that they understand and appreciate that their parents are strict, but are also fun, and that's kind of like, and it's not mutually exclusive. And I think this is something that I think we've found joy in bringing up our kids, and and in really trying to understand that this is the investment. I mean, when you have kids, that's it. You pour your life into them, and from day one for the next 18, 20 years, they're your life.
Yeah.
You live for them. You invest in them, but then make time for the marriage. And I tell my kids, don't drive your mom crazy, because when you guys go, I'm going to have to live with this woman. And so I say to them, no, you can't disrespect your mom. You can't drive her crazy. If you disrespect her, it's not on, because respect is
Right.
something that you've got to give. But secondly, she can't be crazy, and that's self-interest. I'm working in self-interest there. I'm saying, you know what? I am not going to live with a crazy lady in the last years of my life. I am not. I'm not going to do that. So, so that's just insurance.
Yeah.
I just find that many times when you find pastors, their wives are in ministry. I've even met pastors whose wives are in ministry who should not be in ministry. And she refused. She refused to do it. I don't say that badly. I say because she just didn't feel that she was the one who was called to do it. And I think that that's very different, understanding what your call is and where your place is, so that there are no false expectations. So now everybody's waiting for a kawad on Sunday, and she just wants to be, hey, I'm just Mrs. Pete. I'm Mrs. Pete Odera. Just leave me alone. I'm not your pastor. He's the pastor.
he is the pastor. You understand that God has called him to be the pastor. When I married him, I didn't expect him to be a pastor. Um, I expected that he was going to be in music, and at the time that we were courting and getting married, he was in advertising, doing a bit of advertising work here and there. I didn't expect that he was going to be a pastor, nor that I was going to be a pastor's wife. Well, often in Kenya, when there's a pastor, his wife is a pastor as well. I started to feel the pressure, thinking, oh my gosh, maybe they expected me, he expects me to be a pastor as well. We talked about it with our pastors at the time. And I remember Pastor Alan saying, look, Rose, Pastor Kathy is not a pastor because I am a pastor. Pastor Kathy is called to be a pastor. And that freed me, you know. I appreciate that they were that candid and that open with us. And, just they understood that people are called in certain places, other people are not. And so just allowing one to recognize where they're called and go there and to go there. Allowing one to be free in their Christianity. And so yes, thank you. I breathed out. I didn't have to be the pastor, but I could be the pastor's wife. And so in that role, I think I've just grown over the years. Found my place. Where do I fit? Am I a congregant? Can somebody come to me with a matter? Obviously, I'm older than a lot of the young ladies and young gentlemen, so there's stuff that I know just by virtue of experience, so I can help. I now know that they're my brothers and sisters in Christ. I'm not their pastor, I'm married to their pastor.